Hey Revolutionaries, I'm excited to bring you this week's episode with Nate Palmer, where we're talking about how you get $1 million body. Yes, $1 million body with his $1 million body method. Yeah, Nate is a fitness and nutrition expert, and I'm super psyched for you guys to hear this episode because it's been a while since I've had someone like him on the show, and he's got really in-depth knowledge about nutrition, which is something I want to work on, so I always try to pull guests on that I'm interested in talking to, of course, because it keeps me curious and excited to talk to them, and I know that comes through with the episode for you guys. And well, what's cool about him, he's got this really deep technical knowledge of nutrition and biochemistry and biology, how your body works. And we stumbled upon this little thing while we were talking about alcohol, of all things, of how to drink alcohol or how to not get fat while drinking alcohol and when to drink it and what the combination is. So he mentioned something that I hadn't heard before about how your body works, that if you're eating carbs while you're drinking alcohol or eating while you're drinking like that, you know, your body reacts when alcohol goes in. It thinks it's a poison, basically, and it shuts down processes of other things. And this is why you get a beer belly, basically, because the carbs that you're eating at the time go into fat because your body's not going to process them because it's reacting to the alcohol to protect you. I never heard this kind of idea before, but we stumbled upon it. So check it out if you're interested in it. And also, he's got a great story of how he, became an entrepreneur, developed his products, moved online. How he kind of just got out of that, a corporate rat race very quickly, and had this singular vision of knew that he could create something for himself, and understands the urgency of doing it now. So I really think you'll dig his mindset in this episode. But before we get there, real quick, speaking about mindset, I wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't checked out the kickoff episode for 2022. Whoa, my desk is moving. Sorry. For 2022, check it out. I think it's episode 90, where I'm talking about mantras and meditation. And on that tip, I'm digging into it this year a little more deeply. And I've been reading these two books lately I wanted to mention. And one is, and maybe I'll take a picture of these and put them on the Facebook page, JimJim'sReinventionRevolution. JimJim'sReinventionRevolution / Facebook.com/JimJim'sReinventionRevolution. Anyways, and one is called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It has to do with meditation. That's why I'm bringing it up. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. Okay, the subtitle continues. How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. I've always been good at the first part, and I'm trying to be better at the second part, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One, by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he's also the best-selling author of Evolve Your Brain. So this is a little bit more technical book in terms of how your brain works and how you can figure out how to reprogram it, basically. And by the time you get to the end of the book, he sets you up for talking about his method of meditating, because that's the process of how to reprogram your brain, basically. And so I'm finally on to chapter 10, Open the Door to Your Creative State, week 1. So these are actually he's starting with the procedures of, and he takes you through like a 3 or 4 week process of actually how to develop your meditation practice. So that's pretty cool. And I'm excited to get there because I've been trying to read this book probably for about a year. And I've slowly gotten through it. But I'm finally getting motivated to get back into it. And since I'm into it now, the other book I wanted to mention is The Essential Teachings of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. So this guy is the famous Indian guru that the Beatles got connected with way back when, like late 60s or time frame, 68, 69, 70, somewhere around in there. And it's a book on transcendental meditation by Jack Forum. And the reason I decided to pick this thing up is because I was checking out Shangri-La, the TV series that features Rick Rubin, the music producer. So if you guys aren't familiar with Rick Rubin, he's a legendary music producer that I think he started Def Jam Records back in the day, started producing the Beastie Boys, worked with Dr. Dre, worked with all the early rappers, and then he started producing pop acts, rock acts. Famously, he produced that one really impactful album with Johnny Cash, his last one. They have all these ballads and stuff. I mean, he's just really run the gamut in terms of music production, and Shangri-La documents the studio Shangri-La in California. It's sort of a music studio where we'd have people come in and record. And, Rick Rubin is this like really zen guy, and people don't know exactly what he does, but he's able to pull out, pull the best out of these music artists and get it down to tape, basically, or to digital, as they do it these days. He gets the best out of them, and he's really like sort of a wise Zen figure. And in the movie series, or the TV series, sorry, I'm not sure what it's on, Netflix or whatever, you can find it out there. Search Shangri-La Rick Rubin. He talks about how he got into meditation way back when in his 20s. He's probably in his 50s now, something like that, late 50s. And somehow he discovered it, and so he mentions this book in the TV series. And I just saw him reading it. I don't even think they mentioned the name of the book, but I just saw the cover of the book, and I'm like, hey man, I gotta check that out because Rick Rubin is the boss, Anyways, and I realized, oh my God, this is like the original seminal text by Jack Forum that talks about the teachings of Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, this famous yogi. And Jack was a guy, he actually ended up going to school in Ohio. So in Ohio, where I'm at, Ohio University, down south in Ohio, because he was wanted to be a writer, and he went to school there. But then he got pulled into India and got connected to Maharishi, and the rest is history. Anyways, check out that book because I just started reading it. It's just fun to learn about the history of meditation and Jack's journey of him discovering for himself and bringing it kind of to the masses, because he became a guru himself and teacher himself of it. Anyways, that's what I've been digging into, and if you haven't checked out episode 90, go back and check it out, listen to it, all right? And, find a mantra for yourself, maybe dig into meditation, because I think it's one of the best ways to probably just feel happier, but also if you're interested in, of course, reinventing something in your life, quieting your mind and getting in touch with your spirit, I think can get you there much quicker than you might imagine. So check it out. All right, that's enough of that for the moment. Let's get to this week's episode with Nate. Here we go.
Welcome to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, the show that explores reinvention in the digital age as it relates to career, creativity, and technology. Stay tuned for interviews with professionals, entrepreneurs, and creatives that have reimagined success and are making a pivot. If you'd like to listen to the entire back catalog, visit JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com for instant access. And now, here's your host, Jim.
Just to see what's going on out there. Vegas is still just crazy as ever.
They say West Coast, best coast, and I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't argue with that. I wouldn't argue with that, really. I always enjoy my time when I'm out there. It's a different vibe, different understanding of the world, So, okay, everything looks good on this end here. Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Jim, and welcome to episode 92 of Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. And I'm talking today with Nate Palmer, and we're talking nutrition and fitness. So, Nate, welcome to the Reinvention Revolution.
Jim, thanks so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, well, me too, man, because, it's been a while since I had a fitness-oriented guest on, and, it's something that I'm always thinking about in my life. Like, I like to work out 2 or 3 times a week. It just gives me enough energy to survive and get through the day. But also the nutrition part is something that I think I want to spend more time on. I don't know. I'm not good at it, okay? Like, I'm okay at eating good stuff. Like, I like good food. Like, some people are just like, I can never eat vegetables or whatever. I'm like, I'm not that guy. I can eat well, but I just, it's a challenge, especially when I'm traveling and all those things. So anyways, I'm super psyched to have you on because I know that you have this background both in fitness and in nutrition, and you have like a real deep technical expertise in nutrition. And I was like reading some of the terms you were talking about on your website, and I'm like, oh man, we might go down the rabbit hole. Just fair warning for everybody who's listening out there, okay? So
we'll keep it fun and interesting, though.
All right, but
that's a part of the reinvention, right?
Well,
I didn't start off with that. So.
Exactly. Well. So this is why I'm kind of joking in a way because everybody who's listening to the podcast knows that I'm a bit nerdy. My background is in engineering, so I'm a technical person, and I like to bring things that might sound on the surface like a little bit foo-foo or new agey, but with a real scientific sort of logical basis to it. And once you understand it in that way, I think you can really get behind some of this stuff. So it's like I'm totally cool to go as deep technically as you want to go, but we'll keep it interesting for everybody listening, of course. But people know what to expect out there. Anyways, Nate. So before we get into like Nate Training Systems, I know that's your sort of overall kind of umbrella company, what you're doing, and your brand out there. But you've written these 2 books, and before we dig into the one book that's most recent, which is your $1 Million Body Method, right? $1 Million Body Method. I wanted to touch on this other book called Passport Fitness. So when we got connected, I noticed this title. I'm like, Passport Fitness. What a great title. It got me hooked immediately because I've been traveling a lot, and this brings up the challenge of staying in shape when you're on the road and diet and fitness. So can you just talk real quickly about what Passport Fitness is real quick? We won't spend that much time on it, but I want people to know it's out there.
Yes, thanks for bringing that up. But this is a book based off of my experience traveling with my wife for about a year. So we were gone for 13 months. We didn't really have a home base. We went through South America. So we were in like 5 different countries. We spent hundreds of hours on buses, traveling around in hostels, just in places where it'd be very easy to not necessarily have a fitness routine.
Right.
But that's really important to me is making sure that I'm like you said, I'm working out a couple times per week because I know that it gives me energy and it allows me to do the things that I want to do. So if I want to even if it's just like travel and feel my best, I'm still going to incorporate some sort of fitness into there. So I give some strategies and practical tips on basically how do you stay fit while you're traveling? Like, what do you eat on an airplane? How do you make sure that you are packing appropriately? What do you need to bring with you? What are the best pieces of equipment? So this book has a lot of like anecdotes, stories from the times we were away, as well as helpful tips. It's not like what I would consider like a program or something that you would read through and then implement everything at once. It's like you would read through it and you'd be like, oh, I got 4 really good ideas that I can start using right away as a part of that book. So
I see. Yeah.
That was kind of my first foray into writing. It came after we got back from traveling, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the process, but I don't think that I made the impact with the book that I was really hoping to make.
I see. Interesting. So that was, what was the impetus to write the book? So it sounds like you got back from traveling, you learned all these interesting things. Did you have it in mind that someday I'm going to write a book about something? Or what prompted you to just like really put the grind out to it?
I've always believed I was going to write a book. I like writing. I've had a blog since 2011. And if you go back that far, everything I wrote is like super cringe. I just hate reading it.
Oh, right.
But I love it. It's fun. And I think that like the idea that less than 1% of people will ever write a book, it's one of the main things that sits on people's bucket list that they never get to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I want that. I want to live that next level life. I want to show people what's possible. Plus, it's a fun way to share like my own personal experiences, my methodologies, that sort of thing.
Right. Oh, well, I love it. I mean, that's so interesting to be like just super motivated when you get back to be like, hey, man, this now's the time to put these ideas, into this book format. Okay, I'm going to ask you one more question about this before we move on. But I was reading this is kind of how nerdy I am. I just go and look all this stuff up. So I'm looking at the Amazon sort of promo page for the book. And it's got your top 5 reasons of what you're going to get out of Passport Fitness. But down at the bottom, it's like this throwaway thing. It's the very last paragraph. It says, learn how to drink alcohol without getting fat. That's one of the elements of the book. I'm like, can you elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah.
Not that I'm a huge drinker, but I imbibe a little bit from time to time. Especially on the road.
The thing is that I think that a lot of like fitness professionals are along the lines of like, hey, if you can't ever drink again. And like, That's not reasonable for most of my clients. If they're coming in, they're like, hey, I'm going out to client dinners. If you're traveling, you're probably going to have a glass of wine that like somewhere, you're not going to go to Argentina, sit at like a vineyard in Mendoza and be like, guess I'll just have the water. Like you got to figure out situations that are going to like work for your life, because fitness gains are great. Yeah. Making progress is great, but lifestyle gains, those are important too.
I like how you put that, lifestyle gains. Yeah.
Yeah, because if I'm sitting around with like some like new friends or old friends and we're just like having a time and sharing like breaking bread and sharing some wine and stuff like that, I don't want to be thinking about like, well, how is this going to negatively impact my macros for the day? Like that sucks.
Right.
So I'd rather have some frameworks in place. And this is how I always think about things. People think, oh, you must be so incredibly motivated and inspired all the time to be in shape and to always be working out. I'm not that disciplined. Mm-hmm. And so in order for me to have everything that I want in life, I need to have rules in place. And so I kind of find my discipline through having specific like frameworks and things that I follow. So for example, in the morning, I allot myself 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine every day. That's all I get. I take one day off per week, usually Sundays. Mm-hmm. I stop drinking it at 11 a.m. Those are my rules. So like within that, I can have like 5 cups of half and half coffee. I can have 1 scoop of pre-workout that's got 300, 400 milligrams in there. Like I can do whatever I want to if it fits the framework. So for alcohol, my framework is this. Make sure that you stop eating food an hour before you start drinking.
Okay.
Keep your mixers. I do my rule is no caloric mixers. So I don't really drink beer. If I'm gonna have something with like sugar in it or whatever, it's gonna be wine. I'm not gonna really have a pina colada.
Right.
So non-caloric mixers, generally sticking to like more of the hard alcohol mixed with something that doesn't have calories in it, diet soda or like fizzy water. Mm-hmm. And then wait 1 hour after your alcohol to eat again. Most of the time, it's not like you get a beer belly from having alcohol. It's from all this surplus calories that go into that. So beer is high calorie, pina coladas are high calorie.
Food intake. Okay, makes sense now.
So, and then also, the big plate of nachos is high calorie that you really want while you're drinking. So right. I've always found that like this idea keeps me in line because it forces me to have a bigger meal ahead of time. Make sure that I have like a solid, we'll call it a drinking base, but also I'm not going to be like starving. You're like, man, like I would need to go through the Taco Bell drive-through because I think we've all been there. Mm-hmm. And then it allows me to like be like, okay, I'm gonna stop drinking now. I'm going to eat some food in an hour. And then my hangover is way, way reduced because I'm not like, doing both things at the same time. So that's my framework for how to drink without gaining any fat.
Okay. I never heard that. But that makes sense in terms of not overloading yourself with just carb-centered calories. If you're having 2 or 3 beers plus a carb kind of meal, like all at the same time, which normally I think the average person would sit down and normally do. That's what I'm going to have pizza and beer.
Yeah, it's not normal, but it's freeing, right? You can kind of sit in that and be like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Or if you decide to have pizza and beer, you know what you're up to as well. It's not like I'm just having pizza and beer because that's like I just don't know any better.
On autopilot, right?
But the technical way, the thing that happens is behind the scenes, alcohol is a poison. Ethanol is something that your body cannot digest. So we know that proteins and carbs have 4 calories per gram, fats have 9 calories per gram, ethanol has 7 calories per gram, but we don't talk about it because your body can't hold it. Right. So what happens is when you ingest alcohol, your body goes, we're being poisoned. Let's shut down all of our metabolic processes, the way we burn fat, the way we use our carbohydrates, in order to purge this alcohol out of our system. So while we're digesting and purging alcohol, we are not filtering or burning calories.
Right. That makes
or
sense.
Burning fat. We are taking the nachos, the pina colada, those beers, and your body's just stuffing it into storage. And it's like, hey, we'll deal with this later as soon as we get through this horrible thing that we're dealing with right now.
Right.
So when you put all that, like those calories, those fats, those carbohydrates into your body just throws them right into storage. So it's way easier to gain fat when you are drinking than it is to when you're not.
Interesting. Wow. What a great explanation. I don't think I've ever heard that before. That's interesting. I mean, I've always known that, the more you drink seems like the more fat you get, but I never connected it to how your body shuts down or processes things. That's interesting. Cool. Well, awesome. All right. So that's Passport Fitness. So thanks. It was on my mind again recently. Like I said before we started recording, I just got back from Las Vegas, and it was like, I did okay. Like it could have been worse in terms of food and drinking and partying. Like I didn't really drink that much because I was kind of just. It was more of a sabbatical for me to get away and kind of just get out of the winter and think about some projects I'm going to work on. I actually got some more focused work done while I'm there because I didn't know anybody, so I just dropped in, stayed in my room, and like went out late at night and had a meal. But the volume of food in the restaurants there, oh my God, it's just, it's hard to.
It's fabulous.
It's hard not to indulge. Anyways,
did you get that vitamin D while you were there too?
I
Hopefully
did,
you got by
man.
the pool?
I was outside. I was in the pool, and it was just like it was really rejuvenating, which I needed. So it's really cool. All right, well let's swing back to this $1 Million Body, because I know this is your new book that's been out, and you have a podcast that looks like it's built around it. And so tell me about kind of the evolution from writing the first book to the second book, and how your thoughts have changed about fitness and nutrition, and what this book is about.
So $1 Million Body was kind of born out of the reinvention of my online coaching business. So I was living in Seattle with my wife and up till 2015. I quit my job up there. She quit her job. And then that's when we started traveling. We traveled for about a year.
Okay.
And at that point in 2015, I went 100% online with my coaching business. So I'm a big training nerd. I love talking about like how to train your body and your muscles, how to build strength, how to build muscle. I love all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So when people were like, hey, I want coaching with you. I want you to help me get in better shape. I'd be like, great, here's a workout. Enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I was shipping off these Excel document workouts to people, and they were getting done probably 20% of the time. It just wasn't that good. And I was like, man, what am I missing here? You know what it is? I need to get more videos. So I filmed like 400 videos, put them all into the Excel document at great personal cost. It takes a really long time to edit all those.
It's intense.
It was a nightmare. And so I was like, oh, here you go. It's your workout, but with video links. And you know what? It didn't really help my success or my client's success rather. I was like, what am I missing? I just don't get it. Like, do I need an app? Do I need an email, like CRM, whatever? And I started to understand, and fast forward 3 years, in 2018, that I need to get people to understand how nutrition works before I can even give them training. Because if your nutrition isn't on point and you're doing a half-assed training program, you're going to get better results than if your nutrition is completely off, or you don't quite understand how it works, or you're doing something unsustainable, and you're going 100% all in on a really hardcore training program. So nutrition is always kind of the foundation for when I see the best results.
Right.
So $1 Million Body was the kind of the pinnacle of a lot of effort, research, studying, and kind of going back to the drawing board with what I believed and what my coaching program entailed. Because obviously I want people to be successful, right? Right. They're coming to me, they want to get results. I want to make that process as easy and as sustainable, because if I just tell them, hey, you need to eat chicken and broccoli, and then they lose 30 pounds, they're gaining that right back, because at the end of the month or whatever, they're going to be like, I need pizza, and this is horrible. I don't ever want to see broccoli again.
Right. Okay, so
the $1 Million Body Method, I just try to distill it down into what I call 7 daily investments, the things you need to be doing or checking, those boxes you need to check on a daily basis to make sure that you have tons of energy, you burn fat on demand, and you never have to worry about what am I going to eat now? You always have the answer to that question.
I see. Yeah, I know I need this in my life. I know I need more of this in my life. So is there a lot of meal prep involved, or is it just understanding, or, how do if you're someone like me who's like, I don't have any discipline around my diet, I go to eat, I try to eat good things, but it's unorganized and I'm kind of undisciplined about it.
Again, same here. And that's where I've had to kind of come up with frameworks and ways that I can fit my ideas about nutrition into tidy little boxes. Mm-hmm. Because if you just try to go at it, I'm a kind of a chaotic person. So if I try to go at it using with just my nature, I'm always going to end up in a drive-through somewhere. I'm going to end up being like, what do I have to eat? A bagel and some old grapes. I guess that's that's what's for dinner,
Right. Yeah.
And so this is actually brand new. I just created something called Meal Prep Mastery. And it's not necessarily hey, where I think a lot of people think meal preps, they think Tupperware, all stacked, all with the same foods. But I tell people, don't do that, because you're going to burn out. You're going to hate it. By the 7th day of eating the same exact meal, it's going to taste gross because it's 7 days old. And you're going to be so over that thing. We don't want to burn ourselves out on this, the same food. So What I teach people to do is batch prep their proteins. So if you're going to grill some chicken, don't just grill 3 pieces, grill 20 pieces, eat what you need to in the moment, and then turn that into another meal tomorrow. So for example, part of meal prep mastery is I show people cook your chicken thighs. Chicken thighs, by the way, are superior to chicken breasts, and it's not even close.
Okay.
So you cook your chicken thighs on the grill. Okay. You eat them with potatoes night one. The next day, you chop that chicken up. You put it on tortillas. You put a little salsa on it. Now you have tacos. Night three, you chop that chicken up. You throw it into a pan. You throw a little tiki masala sauce on it. Throw rice in a rice cooker. And now you have like homemade Indian food. All of these meals now, like the first meal takes a little longer to cook everything. But then these subsequent meals, 15 minutes out the door. Healthy food, delicious. And you're not feeling burnt out on eating the same thing over and over again. I didn't realize this was like a radical thing until I was talking to someone about it, and they were like, "You have to do this. You have to create a course around this. You have to film these videos." So I did, and I feel like people are seeing this now and being like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't understand how easy this could be."
Well, I like that. I like the idea of creating that variety around, like, just prepping the protein and creating that variety, because I've tried this a little bit before. I'm like, I'm going to get excited and like do some meal prep, which is like weird for me. And, but it's only like 3 days. I can only eat the same thing for like 2 to 3 days. And then I'm like, I'll throw it out because I'm just over it.
I'll get you set up with this. You can try it out.
Yeah. Yeah. That sounds cool. Well, speaking of little things, like I think you really have some insights around, like these little nuggets of how people can get started. So I tried a 10-day cleanse. This was like when I was working for a client of mine a few years ago, and their wellness guru over there at the company, they bought all these like 10-day cleanses kind of things. And I'm like, oh, this sounds a little bit weird again, a little foo-foo to me, But I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? Let me try it and see if it works. And one of the things it did was it basically broke your addiction to caffeine and to carbs. That was part of the 10-day process. So like you go hardcore the first few days and then you add it back in by the end. But that gave me this insight into like how addicted I really was to carbs and to caffeine. And so it really was like a revelation there. And so I try to do that maybe once or twice a year, definitely with caffeine, maybe once a year with sugar, but twice a year with caffeine. And I noticed on your $1 Million Body Method website, milliondolarbodymethod.com/sugar, I really dig this thing. So you have a 5-day sugar detox. So what does that entail?
So it's probably similar to what you were doing with the 10-day cleanse. I found that it takes about 5 days to break that cycle with sugar addiction. And but you're right, like 10 to 14 days to break the cycle with caffeine addiction. Otherwise, you're kind of going right back to it. Right. By the way, after you do 14 days like free of caffeine, that next cup of coffee, it just hits just right.
It's amazing. Well, what's interesting is like, at least for me, and I think maybe for most people, is after you maybe day 3, if you're really, addicted to caffeine, and probably if you're drinking any caffeine, you have some level of addiction, you get that mild sort of migraine headache happening
right here, huh?
Right? And you don't feel very good, and it's like, but you got to break through that, and then once you break through like day 4 or 5, you just have more energy. You're not drinking any caffeine, and it's like you think like, oh man, I just got home from work, I got to take a little power nap or whatever. It's like I remember it's like laying down thinking like, yeah, I was in my routine. I'm thinking like, I shut my eyes for a second. I'm like, wait, I don't even feel tired. I'm not even exhausted. Like my normal exhaustion would be at the end of the day. It's like, it's kind of a revelation. Interesting anyways. So I thought that was cool that you had that little detox plan put together for everyone. Well, neat, man. Well, it's great to hear about this new system, but I want to hear a little bit more about your background, about how you got into this, because you have an interesting kind of reinvention story of your own, transformation story, really, of being sort of in the, the 9-to-5 crowd and being in the office or working a job you didn't like, and figuring out how to, turn your passion into a business. So maybe we can rewind a little bit and tell people where you were just a few years ago.
Yeah. So when I was always like kind of into fitness growing up. I always had like an idea about that. When I was going to college, I was shirking all of my studies basically to read more about training and nutrition. My degree was in business and psychology. Mm-hmm. And when I graduated into the amazing job market of 2008, I got out and I was like, well, I guess I'll just be a personal trainer until I figure out what I want to do with my life. So about a year later, I was like, okay, it's time to get a real job, something that pays me more than like $11 an hour. Let's figure it out. And so I got into a inside sales job on the phone with people, selling them for-profit education. So there was like the thing that caused the 2008 recession, like one of the big things, like these these kind of predatory institutions preying on people. It was crazy too, because like I get on the phone with people and they thought I was calling from like a site like Indeed.com or Jobbing.com, because we put ads out. It was like they would fill out an application. They would say like, do you want to increase your education? And people would just click like, yes, I guess. Like they thought their employers were going to see it. We'd get their information. We'd follow up with them. It wasn't a good system. It was like, it made me feel pretty dirty to be involved with that. And so,
well, you're just out of school. You're kind of learning about life, how the world works. You know, you're like, try this, right?
I didn't quite get it. I was like, I do sales. I did door to door. I did advertising sales. Like, this should be a good fit for me. No, I realized that like, if I don't believe in a product, like I just can't push it. I can't talk about it.
Right.
I'm a little too honest. I'm gonna give you exactly my thoughts on things.
Right.
I wasn't the best fit for their organization either. So the whole time it was like this like there was a lot of just tension, because I didn't want to be doing what they wanted me to be doing, but I also didn't have any other options. So I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Luckily I had this mentor who was someone I really looked up to. And I was like, Dean, what, like I'm feeling stuck, man. And I'm like 22. Like, what do I need to do in this situation? He's like, you need to open your own gym. I was like, don't I need a lot of money for that? Don't I need to figure something out like with that? And he's like, here's what you should do is find someone who already started a gym, needs a good trainer, get in there and then pay them like to sublease. So you don't have to put out for the lease, put out for the equipment, all those sorts of things. And I was like, okay, great idea. And so fast forward a couple months, I found a spot and just like full on quit the gym with no clients or anything else like that. I showed up at the gym to pay my rent. Like, I think I had like $1,000 in my bank account. I paid all of that to him for rent for the first month. And I was like, okay, sink or swim time. Like,
oh, really? So you really just did a clean break, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So luckily I was able to find some clients and start like creating some momentum there. And then it ended up just kind of exploding. That business grew really, really fast. I was in a great area. I had some great mentors, some great people who were teaching me about physiology, biomechanics. We worked with a lot of golfers in the Scottsdale area.
Right.
And it ended up being this just incredible experience that I really like, I wouldn't have been able to take advantage of if it hadn't been for like taking that leap and just kind of like flipping the coin and being like, okay, here we go. And I mean, maybe that's easier as like a 22-year-old, wasn't married, didn't have any kids at the time. Sure. It'd be much harder to do that right now. But I also firmly believe that I was betting on myself to win.
Right.
I knew in my heart that like I was going to get a W, and I didn't know exactly how it was going to look or what format it was going to take. But I knew that if I showed up every single day and I put in the effort and I worked the steps, I was going to be successful.
Why did you have that kind of frame of reference? Or like, were your parents entrepreneurs, or did you have other like close friends that were running businesses, or that kind of did a similar sort of thing, betting on themselves, that kind of gave you this insight into it, or it was just something innate?
My dad is a real estate agent. So he always I grew up reading books like The Millionaire Mindset, Millionaire Next Door. Okay. I always had that kind of entrepreneurial seed he really instilled in me.
Right.
And then between my sophomore and junior year of college, I paid for my own school. And so I wanted to make a bunch of money during the summer. And this opportunity presented itself called the Southwestern Company. And they came up to me and they were like, hey, how would you like to make a bunch of money? And I was like, you're speaking my language. I love money. So they're like, by the way, you have to work 13 and a half hours Monday through Saturday. You have to drive your own car out to an undisclosed location, and you have to knock on doors to sell books to families. I was like, I don't know. Is that good? Is that bad? Let's do it. So I did a week in a training, a week sales training in Nashville, Tennessee on my own dime, drove up to Ashtabula County, Ohio, knocked on people's doors to be like, hey, can I live with you? I'm working here for the summer. And then knocked on doors 80 hours a week to try to sell books. So it was absolute insanity. And it was definitely a trial by fire.
Right.
But after I came back from that, I got a tattoo to kind of commemorate the experience.
Oh, really? What's the tattoo?
It's a quote from Hannibal. I put it on my chest, and it says, either find a way or make one.
Okay.
And I just felt like that summed up that experience, and then kind of the mindset shift I got from that.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you what the takeaway was, because that sounds on the surface like, God, what a brutal, kind of gross experience, and awkward, and probably a lot of rejection, and just, maybe hard to believe in the product, probably. I don't know what you were trying to sell exactly, but that just seems like a rough way to go. But you probably just learned a ton about human nature, about business, about relations, about hustling, whatever it is, right?
Yeah. All those adjectives easily describe that experience. Brutal, gross, difficult.
Yeah.
I had guns pulled on me. I got beat up. All my windows in my car got broken.
Yeah.
There were some times when I was like, that's it. I'm done. I'm going home.
Right.
But like, just kind of like what I learned personally was like, I can do anything. There's nothing in this life that can elude me if I continue to work towards it. And that was my takeaway, is like, you cannot put a problem in front of me that I can't solve. There's no obstacle that I cannot overcome. And so like, you give me a challenge, you say, oh, I don't know. Not everyone writes a book. 1% of people only write a book. And I was like, okay, bet. Let's show me what's not possible. And I'm going to show you me doing it. Right. Not the smartest, but I can out consistent pretty much anybody.
Right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought this up, because I just was wanting to ask you, where does the, it's not necessarily motivation. It's, just something like a drive, like, hey, I want to accomplish something, but like, how do you, or when do you know? Maybe the right question is, when do you know? So like, you're going through life, you have these challenges, you need to do something different. But like you said, like your clients weren't figuring out, like you were giving them these programs, but they weren't kind of grasping what they actually needed to do to be successful. They had to make this decision, like, okay, I'm going to work on the nutrition first and really get that done. But how do you know when is the right time to start making these shifts, or when to jump in, or when to take on this challenge?
Yeah, I think now is a good time.
Okay.
If you can't do it, if you can't start yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the ready, fire, aim mentality. So gotcha. Like, just because I wasn't like perfect with my delivery system of my workouts didn't mean I wasn't going to deliver. I feel like a lot of people get tied up in that perfectionist mindset. Just because I didn't necessarily know like where my clients were going to come from in that first gym didn't mean I wasn't going to start working and start talking to people and start training people. I will always go and do things and get reps while I figure out what are the next steps. So like the $1 Million Body Method, that is the amalgamation of thousands of reps and thousands of hours spent like figuring stuff out and tweaking. I would much rather go after something and just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And then like making it a little better than having to release something perfect. I've never one time released a perfect product day one. Right. It's always come from like having done something over and over again till it's gotten better. And now I'm at 90% and I know there's still room for improvement. So if someone's thinking about doing something, start now and figure it out as you go. And I think that's one of the lessons I take from the gym. It's like when you go to the gym and you do your bench press for the first time, you don't have a 6-pack. You don't have like 18-inch arms.
Right.
You have to do reps over and over again. And it's a game of inches. Like just because you did one salad or had one workout doesn't mean you're in shape. You have to go again and again. And I think that like, I've always had a hard time putting on muscle. One time a doctor told me that I was an exercise non-responder. Basically like, hey, no matter what you do, you're never going to be big. I was like, So I feel like I've had to work like a lot harder than even some of my clients, like who I'll put through similar programs. I feel like I could catch anyone up to where I'm at in 2 years. And I've been working out personally for like 18.
Right.
So I feel like I've always had a harder time getting to some of these places, but I've always realized that if I can just do a little bit more, a little bit longer, a little bit further than anyone else, I was going to be successful.
I see. I get it. Well, I really appreciate that message of now. I mean, there's never the right time to do it. Like just never is. And you never feel prepared when you think you want to reinvent yourself or really take a pivot or really start a new business. You're never fully prepared. It's just not how it works.
Or start working on your health.
Right.
It's never like the perfect time.
There's never
always
the perfect time.
A time you're always busy.
When I'm less busy, I'll get to it. No. Right.
You got to start now. Start today.
Yeah, I like it. I need to keep hearing that message from as many people as possible. So I love that. well, Nate, we got a few minutes left on the podcast, but there's always a couple of questions I'd like to ask people before we get out of here. And one is in regard to technology. So I like to try to figure out how the world's being reinvented as we reinvent ourselves here a little bit. And so when you dove in and started your own business, obviously the training business can be more of a one-on-one, in-person, word of mouth. Maybe that really gets it going. But you moved it online and have started all these courses and training systems. How did you learn how to do all the online technical stuff, or be open really to leaning into the tech, leaning into creating your own podcast and all that kind of stuff? That's another, I think, mental challenge of how, like I see as kind of going forward, that we need good nutrition, we need to work on our health, but we need to somehow figure out how to grasp technology. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, same answer as the last one. Honestly, I didn't know. I just realized that if I did more reps, I was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So my first podcast sucks. My first blog post sucks.
Right.
All of my first training programs suck. I'm okay with that. I'm happy to let the first rep suck.
Yeah.
Because I know the next rep is going to be a little better. And then the next rep is going to be a little better. So when I was trying to dive into I have a new training app that's just super awesome called Train Heroic that I use with clients. So I pull this up, I put their workouts in, I have the calendar, they track their weights and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know how to use it at first. But that's okay. I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it until now my programs are on point. Everything looks really good. The videos are there. Just I feel like when I was a kid, my parents had we had Windows 3.1 on our computer and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I would just mess around, open up files, changing the background, tweaking stuff, probably giving it viruses. I don't know.
Probably.
But that's how I learned computers, is messing around on them. How do you use your iPhone? I have an iPhone. How do you use your iPhone? I don't know. I just mess around on it until I figure it out. Same with with some of these like tier things, like my training program, my CRM, which I use Kajabi for to build my courses.
Oh, Kajabi, sure.
I use blogs, or I use WordPress to build my website, and I've had for over a decade. But I don't go into these things knowing exactly how to use them. I go into them and I tinker with them until I figure out kind of what happens. Now I'm at the point where I'll get into something, I'd be like, I don't know, I don't necessarily have time for this, and I'll hire someone else to do it.
Right.
But with a lot of these little things, like using Zoom or StreamYard, or figuring out how to build courses, how to film videos, how to edit different things, it's just touching them enough. It's just I feel like the answer to everything in life that you want is reps.
Reps.
Because I'm never going to step onto an NFL field. I don't have the talent for that. I don't have it's not going to happen for me. But everything else in life is rep based.
Right. Right.
Beside elite level sports, everything else in life is rep based. Your health, your finances, your relationships, these are all rep based systems. And if you can just get a little better every single rep, you'll always be successful.
I like that. Yeah, it's just it's that mindset challenge of just getting started, do it now, go look it up. I mean, it's I noticed there's been a big shift, at least for me, in the last few years, maybe starting 5 or 6 years ago. But I used to lean on a lot of outside expertise, hey, I know a guy who's an expert in this, an expert in that, whatever. And now my go-to, when I need to get something done or learn something, is I need to go to YouTube and Google first. Because nobody wants to hear your stupid questions anymore. They found out and figured out how to do it this way. They did the work themselves, and you kind of have to just start getting the reps. Putting in the reps. That's what it takes.
If someone comes to me and they're like, "Hey, how many calories in a gram of carbs?" Did you try Googling it before you asked somebody?
That's right.
You need to bring a base level of knowledge. You need to showcase that you've done at least a little bit of research.
Right.
I think of those frequently asked questions are kind of the low level ones.
That's right.
And then above those are the should ask questions, the SAQs, which you can ask once you have a degree of information, but not the full picture.
That's
and if you come to me with a frequently asked question, I'm gonna be like, Google that. Did you not even look? Have you ever seen the website? Let me Google that for you. It is hilarious.
I haven't seen it. No.
So what I'll do sometimes, you go to let me Google that for you, or lmgtfy.com.
Okay.
You just type in how many calories in a gram of carbs, and you send them the web page, and it pulls up Google, types in their question, and gives them the results.
Oh my God. Oh, that's hilarious. I'll have to check that out. That's pretty funny.
Very funny.
I have a good friend of mine who's technically savvy. I mean, this is what he tells himself. It's like, dude, because he just doesn't want to do the reps. So he's always asking me questions because I'm more technical. And so whenever he's got a question, and it annoys me, like it drives me insane. It's like, just Google it. It's like takes 2 seconds. Don't, he takes more time out of his life to call me, and it just doesn't make any sense. Oh my God, it's funny.
I'm so excited for your next encounter with that question, because he won't ever ask you a little of a question.
Yeah,
again.
I know. I love that.
Terrific.
Okay, I'm going to Google that right when I get off this podcast. That's funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, I got one final question for you, Nate, and that is, through all your recent success and reinventions, can you share a reinvention revelation? Okay, with the audience, of something that you learned along the way that you didn't have an insight or couldn't have predicted in advance, something that really helped you get to the next level or helped you make your pivot.
I feel like there's a couple ways you could go with this question. Like, number one, like the shift for me in my brain of reinventing myself from like Nate the trainer to like Nate the coach, and having to like start thinking about, because as a personal trainer, like I can pretty much say without like bragging too much that I was like top 1%. I was a great personal trainer. Mm-hmm. And I thought that would carry over into the online space and the coaching and the habits and the lifestyle. And it did not. I was not a very good coach up front.
Gotcha.
So in order to reinvent myself in that way, I had to go back and kind of learn new things. I had to go figure out a lot more about nutrition. I was deep into nutrition books and all sorts of like textbooks and biochemistry and stuff like that for about 2 years, trying to figure out what are the steps that were going to get people to their end result that they were looking for, because I just didn't have those before. So it took me a minute to number one, accept that I wasn't as good as I thought I was going to be, which is always hard. I have a big ego. So
sure.
And then number two, identify what are those weaknesses? What are those areas where I was lacking? Like the psychological components and like the habits and the lifestyle things that come into play over and over again, because it's not just about the hour you spend in the gym 3 times per week, and then actually do the reps to figure out those pieces to move forward. So that was a big reinvention for me. Took a big shot to the ego, but I'm just so happy that I was able to do that. Had the opportunity.
Right. Well, I think that's very enlightening or illuminating for everyone. Is like, when you're making a shift, like even if you're just taking your same business from, person to person to online, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm a newbie over here. Even though I have 20 years experience doing this thing and I'm an worldwide recognized expert, holy crap, like you said, it's really like you got to go back to square one a little bit and be like, you know what? I got to learn this stuff. I got to dig in a different way again. I know I found that about myself. This is, my own journey of starting the podcast and doing more online things, even though my background is in engineering, corporate world. I mean, I was a worldwide expert in fiber optics technologies of a few different flavors of that. But jumping into this world, it's like, I don't know a thing about it. and I feel completely stupid because I'm not good at any of it, because I'm starting to get better because I'm putting in the reps now. But as you say, it's interesting. Well, I really appreciate you sharing that, because people, again, I think people just need to hear that common experience of like, I'd love to be changing, but it makes me feel stupid. But that's okay.
It's okay.
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot of growth on the other side of stupid.
That's right. That's right. I love it, man. Well, Nate, if people are interested in connecting with you, learning more about nutrition, maybe working with you or checking out your systems, where would you send them? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
If you want to check out the book that this is all based on, the $1 Million Body Method, you can go to getnatesbook.com. You can grab it there. And if you wanted to check out that free sugar detox that we kind of talked about a little bit more early in the call, you can go to thefreesugardetox.com. Check that out. I'm also on Instagram. If you wanted to pay me for the book, you can. It's on Amazon. You can hit me at $1 Million Body Method there. And I'm, you'll find me.
Okay.
MySpace, whatever.
Very good. Yeah, MySpace. Yeah, exactly. All right. Nate, thanks again. Really appreciate it. Loved having you on, man.
Thanks for having me, Jim. It's good to see you.
Thank you for listening to Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast. If you want to hear more, join our mailing list at JimJim'sReinventionRevolution.com. See you next time. And remember, the revolution has just begun. So dig in, embrace the process of reinvention, and start realizing the success you've always dreamed of. Hey, revolutionaries, if you enjoyed today's episode and today's guest, let them know by commenting on their Facebook page, finding their Twitter handle or Instagram feed, and letting them know you heard them on Jim's Reinvention Revolution podcast, and tell them what you got out of the episode, what you really liked, or how they inspired you. I know they would get a kick out of it and will help others find the same value that you found.